Hello, I'm Doug and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And you have found us today on fresh cheese number 25, which is Asadero, a Mexican style cheese. It's very soft and melty and different than the last thing that we looked at, which is queso fresco. So if you like the reviews that you've been seeing here, please give this video a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, leave a question. Subscribe and click that bell to get notified when the new videos come out, most Mondays and Thursdays. And this is the last specific cheese that we're looking at before we go into fresh cheese in cuisine. And this has been guided mostly by a single chapter in this book by Liz Thorpe called The Book of Cheese. And her mozzarella gateway is about what we've been looking at. We've done a few that she doesn't have, we've missed a few that she does have, but mostly we've lined up with her list of mozzarella gateway cheeses, which are fresh cheeses, which are high moisture, no rind, very fresh, not aged, fresh tasting like cream and milk. And that's what we have here today. It's a Mexican style cheese called Asadero. This brand is called Cacique, and it's the only one I can find in my area. So that's what I have. And it is much more reminiscent of a low moisture mozzarella, kind of like we put on American pizzas. So we will get into this just by tasting it plain. So it's fairly easy to tear up. It's a little gummy as it warms up to room temperature. I got it cold for slicing and grating, and then I let it warm up for this tasting part. But very soft. This one's a little salty. Pretty light salt actually, but I taste the salt. And then cream and milk, dairy notes. Very wet, soft texture that you would guess would melt very easily. So this is not the kind of cheese you would put out on a cheese board or with things, but it does have that kind of texture and taste profile, so it would work. So I'm going to go ahead and try this on a few crackers. See how the pairings or contrasts go. On a buttery cracker. This is buttery all around. There's kind of a buttery note in the cheese. Asadero is very wet, melty, soft, easy to bite into. It doesn't have any give or texture other than kind of gumming up around your teeth. So that's pretty good. I'm going to put it on a piece of toast. It has rosemary, so it's a strong taste, big, thick crunch. So it should contrast several different ways. Maybe it'll get buried with all the crunchy, high flavor of the rosemary. Well, it's definitely loud. Cheese is actually a good contrast. Pulls down all that high flavor scents that you get from the rosemary toast and pulls it back down and calms it down and soothes it over with dairy notes. And certainly a texture contrast. This cheese by itself would never make these sounds. So I got a couple more crackers here. Oh, now it's so sticky it won't come off the plate. Okay, I'm putting on a thin slice onto a multi-grain cracker with no wheat. Good flavor contrast. There's more cheese. There's more salt in the cheese than there is in the cracker. And the cracker's got a bunch of seeds and things that are different than the cheese by quite a bit. So that is a good contrast and it works. And the last cracker I've got here is a rye cracker that's just rye and water. So there's no salt. It'll just be the rye notes. So the rye is pretty rye, dry, grainy. And the wet cheese is with dairy notes and some butteriness and a tad of salt is got a pretty good complementary flavor for the cracker. So you might be able to pull this cheese off on a cheese board, depending on the pairings. And people would go, what is that? So we know its main use is really in cooking, in Mexican style cooking. Now it's going to throw it on top of something, but that's sort of pointless since you can tell from the texture it's going to melt very well. So what I've done is make a little quesadilla with it. It's corn tortillas. I browned them up in a cast iron skillet pretty well, and then melted some cheese on one side and put it together and let it cool a little bit just so I could cut it without everything oozing out. Yeah, I think it's going to work here. So let's see if I can get that into the picture. A little bit even. So this is a browned up toasty corn tortilla. The Asadero inside. So the plain corn and the plain cheese is pretty bland and mild. The kids would like it. Kids that aren't used to strong flavors would just gobble this up. But it'd be pretty easy to put in some chicken or peppers or other cheeses or something with a bit of flavor interest. And the creaminess and butteriness of this cheese would just mix well with so many different things. So I'm not picking up a lot of salt in the quesadilla. I think you can detect it in the cheese part. Certainly not in the tortillas. So that's a good layer, it's a good base. It'd be easy to put in something else that does have the flavor component or more protein or more interest, more spice. Pulled pork or chorizo or something would make this real interesting. So this is a good cheese that I like a lot, and I'll be eating it up to finish it off in all sorts of dishes and applications. So this is our last single cheese review that we're doing. The last video in this series, for the fresh cheeses at least, is going to be fresh cheese in cuisine. And oh my gosh, there's so many of them. It's an ingredient. These are ingredient cheeses for the most part, and I've found so many dishes with these things as ingredients. So that might be a longish video, and it will wrap up the fresh cheeses, and we'll go on to subsequent chapters in the book, like Brie, in future series, which might take 6 or 9 months to get to, depending on how the other things go. So all 9 gateways of Liz's will take 7, 8, 9 years to get to everything. So I'm planning on being around for a while, so be sure and come back for that. And next time we'll do fresh cheese in cuisine. So see you then.